Okay, hey everybody, welcome back to Coffee Talk. I am here with Mike Heins. He is a member of the membership committee with St. Vincent de Paul Society, and I'm really excited to have him on here today because we've been batting around this idea of having young adult ministry active and involved with the service component here at the parish. And there is no better way to get involved with that than with St. Vincent de Paul. So we're excited to have Mike here to join us for a cup of coffee. He's got his sitting right over there. Yep. And today it's a little chilly inside of the studio because I came walking in today and the window was just wide open. I'm going to guess you can't see this, but there's a mess over here, a good kind of mess. There's an air conditioner that's being replaced in here, but I suspect that they were probably doing some work and left it open, and it got a little chilly in here. So, coffee's going to be good for us today, Mike.
Yes. Thank goodness it's nice and hot.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today. Maybe we can get started by just simply asking, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with St. Vincent de Paul.
Okay. Well, I came to this parish approximately 1985. I'm not from Buffalo. I'm from Chicago, but my wife is from Buffalo, to make a long story short. Been involved in ministries in St. Greg's for both my wife and I and our kids for a long time, and always had St. Vincent de Paul in the back of my mind, but until they got out of school and out of high school, there was too many other things going on to get involved with the society. And then finally, I think it was 2006, a couple of guys said, hey, you're empty nesters now. There's no more excuses. Why don't you join up with us? So I didn't have much of a choice at that point, and joined that year and been a member ever since. It's 17 years now.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, that's incredible. So that's a lot of service.
Yeah, we do what we can in service of the poor. The principal goal of our society is to increase our spiritual life, believe it or not. I always thought it was to take care of the poor as much as you can, but found out that spiritual growth was actually the main reason, and helping the poor comes naturally out of that.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm looking forward to kind of cracking that open a little bit because there's a lot of ways you guys do that. But for the listener here, we have just a large parish that is very active with a lot of various aspects of service, of faith growth, community. And I love being able to highlight and put a little spotlight on some of the ministries that are very active doing that. And so when we sat down, this was well before Lent, and we started kicking around the idea of doing a collaboration. I think that's great because we don't currently have an active participation with youth and young adult ministry on the service side. So this actually fills in a spot that I think would really go hand in hand with each other, because young adults they're certainly busy, but at the same time they're active. They want something to sink their teeth into, and when you have something with purpose, especially as driven as St. Vincent de Paul Society, I think it's just a great crossover.
We think so also.
Yeah. So I think one of the challenges with it is maybe some of the perception is thinking that, well, maybe St. Vincent de Paul Society is for some of the older folks, maybe it's not for me. Maybe I need to do something else. What would you say to that? Is it for everybody? Who are you looking for when it comes to somebody to come and join the St. Vincent de Paul Society?
We're looking for basically anyone who wants to try to improve their spiritual life by helping take care of the poor. Probably it's best to have members be over 21 years old because of some of the things that we do. We have many events where we invite younger people than that to come and help us. For example, food drives, um, clothing drives, and they can also get hours for their confirmation requirements, things along that line. But the main action, besides spiritual growth in St. Vincent de Paul, is the home visit. There's a lot of charities and good organizations in this area. But as far as we know, we're one of the very few, if not the only one, that actually goes into people's homes to assess the situation and see if we can help out. We get the source of the referrals mostly through our downtown office in Buffalo. A good place to visit. It's on Main Street, right near the Delta Sonic, if you haven't been there. And from there, we get information about what the particular family needs. It could be a single mom with kids who needs beds and furniture and just about everything else because they had left a domestic situation in a hurry. It could be someone who needs rental assistance. It could be someone in need of food, clothing. But in the home visit, we actually go with a minimum of 2 people and go into the homes and try to assess the situation. Also, to evaluate what we can do, what resources we have, which isn't everything, but we can do quite a bit for them. Now, as far as the youth getting involved, well, I went through that, but young adults, to me, are adults. And I remember a long time ago when I was in that situation, I wanted to be treated as an adult. And that was kind of the idea behind trying to get your particular group involved, was that the main thing that we do out there is to go into the homes, and why don't you come along with us? See what it's like to actually go face to face with the poor and see the face of Christ in the poor. If you talk to anyone who's done a home visit, they'll probably tell you that they got more out of it than the people that ended up being helped. Simply because the spirituality is immediate. Someone is reaching out for help, and we're there to do what we can for them. And that's right up the alley of a lot of the people that I've met in your group. And hopefully they would have some interest maybe in giving it a try.
Wow. Maybe we can spend a little time talking about what those home visits are. What was it like for your first home visit when you got involved, and what was something that maybe you were hesitant about that really found itself to kind of unwind and not be so much of a concern?
Well, the first thing to keep in mind is you're probably not going to be asked to do a home visit in a nice area. It's almost 100%. It's going to be a poorer area. And in our particular situation at St. Gregory's, we take our referrals from the downtown office for the most part. We do have a dispatch line here at St. Greg's where people in the parish can call and leave a message, and we can go to their home and see if we can help them out. But the majority of our calls come through our main office in Buffalo. We get the information, and then we try to go out, of course, with an open mind and to determine what the needs are. At the same time, keeping mind of our stewardship of the resources that we do have to make sure it's a legitimate request. The first couple of times I went, I wasn't really that apprehensive because in my work, I had been in more than one neighborhood that wasn't exactly rich. I'm a pharmacist, so I've worked in some neighborhoods where there were people who much in need, and I was kind of used to the type of housing, the type of streets that you deal with in those situations. I understand that for a lot of people who have not had that exposure, that it's probably frightening. You get a lot of things on TV and radio about violence and shootings, and they're all true. But we have to have some strength and some faith that this is what we're called to do. So we're going to go do it. No different than our founder, Friedrich Ozanam, started St. Vincent de Paul Society in Paris, 1833. And they actually had a lot more courage than we do, because not only was there less communication in case there was a problem, but they were going into areas where, in many cases, the bubonic plague was afoot. So that not only were there people in need of the type of things that we try to help them with, but there was also the plague itself. So I always kind of figure the danger that we might face going into one of these neighborhoods, it's nothing compared to the founders.
Wow. So here we are in Buffalo. Last time I heard, it's the third poorest city in America. And there is a lot of poverty, but it's easy to kind of step away from it and to kind of go around it. You could take the 90 around it. You could take the 190 around it. And, you know, maybe you can skip over it through the 33. But what is it like to step into a house like this? Are they usually receptive and warm? Is it maybe a cold offering of stepping in, and it's kind of a chilly reception? What is that usually like?
Generally speaking, there's a lot of exceptions, but for the most part, it's single moms, and usually with kids. And they've made the request themselves. Maybe they got referred by Catholic Charities, some other organization. Maybe their neighbor had some help from St. Vincent de Paul, so they call downtown, and we get the information that they're in need. Generally, when you go in, it is, I don't know about receptive, because you have to think of self-esteem in a situation like this. Nobody really wants to ask for help, but sometimes you must. And that's what we try to feel, have empathy for. Generally speaking, you don't get invited into a nice table and chair situation where you sit down and talk, because maybe they don't have one. Maybe the home isn't in the type of cleanliness situation where you'll be able to do that. And we play it by ear. You try to get a feel for how bad do these people feel about us being here? How much do they want to talk? We have a piece of paper that says what they need, but is it something else they need? Is there something different since they've called downtown for help? You have to assess that situation, and you can do it pretty quickly. Generally, the people will try to tell you a little bit about what they requested. Some will show you, this is what we're sleeping on. We need beds. Here's how we eat. We don't have a table. Others, will just agree with what's on the paper and, can you help us? So there's a certain degree of acceptance of the situation when you walk in, non-judgmental attitude when you go in. And it's mostly listening at the first part of the conversation, just to see what people's real needs are.
So it's easy to see that stuff maybe from afar, and being up here in Williamsville, up in suburban north towns, we don't have a whole lot of this. So it's easy to kind of not have that experience on a daily basis. but maybe we see some of it on TV or we see it in the movie, so maybe you have some idea of what that's like. But what is it like for those who might not have had the experience of being in a setting like that? The reality versus the fiction of it. Is it kind of the same? Is it just so far off where this is a totally different scenario? What is fact versus fiction?
Well, try to put yourself into a situation where you're living day to day. A lot of things that I take for granted, that people in this area take for granted, such as food, housing, good place to sleep, a lot of these people don't have. So they first of all have to try to make sure that they have food for today and maybe for the next day, that a place to sleep, for today, maybe the next day. A lot of the families are somewhat transient in that some of the kids will live with, the father for a while, then they'll live with the mother for a while. A little story about one of the cases that my partner Tim and I have visited for years now. Absolutely saintly woman who has any time in her house, she lives on the east side of Buffalo, she could have anywhere from 10 as high as 18 people living in her house at once. She has children and they have children, and then anytime someone related has some kind of a problem, she will put herself out, to say, okay, come stay with me until the situation changes, until things get better. We'll make sure there's a roof over your head. We'll get some food for you. And then after a while, those people will move out of her house, try it again on their own, in a different place. Perhaps with a spouse, with a live-in, whatever the situation might be. And sometimes they come back. But we learn a lot more from her than we could ever teach to her. Her generosity with her family, her acceptance of whatever situation they're in. If they need help, they go to her. And so we do our best at Christmas time, Easter time, Thanksgiving, to bring food. Christmas time, we'll bring gifts. These days, it's mostly gift cards, starting with COVID, because the shopping aspect of it. And it's just easier to give people gift cards and then they truly get what they want and need. Just to bring a little bit of life into their existence, Somebody out there cares about them. Yes, they have government help, and there's a lot of programs that are fine programs, but they're really have a lot of, I don't want to say holes in them, but areas where they need a little bit of help to fill in what they really need, especially when you're going day to day.
Right. So what kind of needs are you providing? You mentioned beds and tables. Is that usually what it is? Just kind of household items, or maybe you can give a little bit of a backdrop on what does that storage look like, maybe downtown versus how you do your collections and gather the resources to be able to pass on. What are you guys collecting and what do you guys pass out?
Okay. At St. Gregory's, we have the capacity, the resources to collect things that people are going to need. Food, for instance, all we have to do is ask the parish, and we'll have, actually, we get about 1,000 grocery bags full at any one of our food drives. We have a facility at St. Gregory's that used to be the house of the caretaker back in the day. And right now it's used by maintenance, and we have a food pantry in there.
This is the White House at
the
the
White
edge
House.
Of the property.
Yeah. We call it the White House, yes. So that's our headquarters. The most common request that we get by far are for bedding.
Mm.
There's a problem, as everybody knows, not everybody, but most people have heard about bed bugs, in the city of Buffalo. And a lot of people, if they have to move out of a place, will just leave and leave the mattresses and the beds behind because they're infested. We've come into a type of cooperation with Sleep in Heavenly Peace, another local, actually national charity that sets up beds in people's homes for children 3 to 17. That has been a godsend for us. So we try to work with them as much as we can because it's very hard to keep mattresses in stock, bed frames, bedding. So with Sleep in Heavenly Peace, we have a good referral source for them, and some of us help out at Sleep in Heavenly Peace in their functions.
Wow.
Downtown on Main Street is our diocesan headquarters. In there we have a dining room that have meals 5 days a week, also carry out meals. There's a section of clothing that they can use. There's actually a retail store. The last department store in the city of Buffalo, or on Main Street, as they say. And it's quite nice, actually. It's been remodeled in the last few years. And anything in the store that you would see at an old-time Woolworths or a 5 and 10, you'll find there, and at very, very reasonable prices. One of the things that we do in a home visit is we can issue a voucher whereby we'll listen to them, write down what they need, and then we'll give authorization on the voucher that they can use it as cash when they go in and do their shopping. And then the bill comes back to St. Gregory's. That's one of our resources. You may have noticed the St. Gregory the Great truck, the yellow truck that makes the rounds more and more and more, it seems. With that truck, we're able to pick up used furniture. We have a program set up during the warm months when people can let us know what they have available, put it at the curb or floor or ground level location, and we pick it up, put it on the truck, and then we bring it downtown. There's plenty of room in the downtown facility for the storage of the furniture, and people can shop there and get a very reasonable price, or again, we can issue a voucher for a kitchen table with 4 chairs. We'll designate an amount of money, give them the voucher, and they use the voucher to pay for that. There's some other needs, including clothing, that we can help with. If you've been at the St. Greg's campus and looked over by the White House, you'll see 4 blue bins to collect used clothing. Those bins are picked up every Tuesday, and every Tuesday all 4 are full. The people in this area are tremendous with their support of the used clothing program. So that goes downtown, and that which is sellable is put out on the floor for sale, and then anything that's not, is sold for whatever they can get for it. Food. We also collect food and store food at St. Gregory's. We don't at this time have a pantry where people can come in and pick up their food. Rather, we take the food out to the people. Wow. Again, anytime we ask for it, it's not a problem. We get tremendous response in this parish. People are more than willing to help out with whatever, a couple of bags of groceries, and we'll take the responsibility to keep them in date and distributed not only to individuals, but we also support, for instance, St. Timothy's. It has a food outlet there. Response to Love sometimes. There's a few other places that will regularly drop off food after we have our food drives, and then we use the balance of it for our own needs.
Wow.
Mm.
There's a lot of good nuggets there.
Mhm.
That piece that you were talking about with those bins,
Mm.
and I've dropped off some clothes there before, and I
Mhm.
actually wondered. I'm like, I wonder how often this gets picked up and turned over. Monthly, like
Mhm.
how, because they're big,
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah.
and there's what, 4 of them.
4 of them, and
It's
yeah, once a
impressive.
week, and they're
Wow.
always full. Yeah.
Well, hey, cheers to you, St. Greg's, for coming out and supporting that.
Amen.
It's wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe now, maybe we'll get the coffee talk bump too. You have to do it twice a week, right, guys?
Okay.
Clear out those closets, bring them on in.
Yeah.
So okay, well that's fantastic the way that you guys are servicing that community, and it sounds like downtown is the central hub for it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a strong network of St. Vincent de Paul's at the parish level around the diocese, or is it just here at St. Greg's, or where else is St. Vincent de Paul Society found?
Yes, the central, or the proper word is council, the Buffalo Council, uh, consists of the same counties, of course, that the diocese does. At last count, there's 62, I believe,
Wow.
conferences, which is what we are at St. Gregory's. St. Gregory's is the largest conference and does the most home visits and the most of almost everything except food, probably. We've got several of our members and leadership in the Diocesean Council. And a lot of the councils are very small because not only are a lot of the older members dying off, but we all know it's a nationwide problem to try to get people to volunteer now. I'm sure COVID has something to do with it. I'm sure the fear of shootings, that sort of thing has a lot to do with it. But we need more members. We need more people to, have some courage, some faith, and try to do what Jesus would do, which is to take care of the poor. After all, he said they're always going to be with us. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I believe he wasn't saying that it's going to be a problem forever. He was saying, here's an opportunity forever for us to help out with anybody that needs it. Like I said, several of the conferences are getting smaller now, and especially in the city of Buffalo, there's been, of course, a lot of parishes that have closed. Some have merged. Probably at one time, all those parishes had St. Vincent de Paul conferences in them, numbered in the hundreds at one point. But because the parish closed, of course, the conference closes. And the solution that St. Vincent de Paul Buffalo Council came up with was to establish what's called the Timon Conference. The Timon Conference meets every other Saturday downtown, and basically is kind of a clearinghouse for all the conferences that are no longer there. The conferences that are still active, which include many out, in Amherst area, Lockport, Niagara Falls, Cheektowaga. They'll take referrals that are called into the Central Council and take care of them at the conference level, and then settle up later, I guess you would say, because there just there's hardly any conferences in the city anymore, but the need is as great as ever, especially since the government subsidies during COVID have stopped now. We notice that our calls are getting more and more and more people are in need because those subsidies have dried up.
And there the church is. Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Speaking of how COVID has impacted things, have you seen a a change in the way you approach a lot of these conversations? Because are you a lot more cautious, or are people more cautious stepping into a conversation with you coming at the door?
Mhm.
Or even, I suppose, even on the volunteer side. So maybe on your client side, but on the
Mhm.
volunteer side, are people a little more standoffish or concerned?
I would say more on the volunteer side than on the reception side. For a few years there, people were wearing masks pretty much wherever we went, but I haven't seen a mask in over a year now.
Hmm.
With the people that we help, one of the other things that we do at St. Gregory's used to do was to visit patients at Millard Fillmore Hospital. Uh, would go once a week or so by twos, and we would go and visit patients in the hospital just to say hello, give them a prayer book, pray with them if they wanted to, and wish them well. Let them know that somebody out there is caring about them and is going to pray for them later. We haven't reestablished ourselves there yet, which is a direct result of COVID. Because, of course, family couldn't even visit you there for a while. And to have organizations come in, it's happening slowly. It is available again, but in that situation, I'd have to say even some of our members are a little hesitant because there's still a little bit that's unknown about COVID and its future. And the hospital is willing to let people visit again as organizations, but it's going slowly at this point.
Okay. So here we are. We're sitting at Coffee Talk. We're talking with the folks here. The hope is to be able to garner up some support with the young adults, to get some actionable items into place for just events, maybe just meeting the community a little bit. Our first stop is actually just doing that, of having a little evening together over at the White House. What are we going to do?
Well, hopefully we'll just have a little get together to talk and maybe have some pizza. Give people an opportunity to see what the headquarters look like. And just talk one-on-one about what we do, how we feel about what we do. And try to get some people interested in joining. I should mention one thing at this point. For some reason, I'm not sure why, decades ago, St. Vincent de Paul conferences evolved into 12 men were the St. Vincent de Paul Conference. Not 13 men, no women. That's not in any of the official rules, but somehow that developed. Now we need women more than ever. Picture a single mom with some kids and two guys walking in from Amherst. Are they going to open up to those guys, or would it be better if one of those was a woman? Not to be sexist, but I've seen it. If we do go in with one of our ladies, they'll talk to the women, because they're more comfortable, and I don't blame them. So there is no limit to the number of people that can participate. It can be men or women. And hopefully just letting people see physically, they'll see our food pantry, they'll see our little office after we clean it up. And some of the ins and outs. We got a few, how would you say, little reminders of the past of St. Vincent de Paul at St. Gregory's, since we've been here since 1960. That's 63 years, if my math is correct. There's a few little tokens of the past, to look at and admire. And hopefully that'll stimulate some conversation as to what we do, what maybe some our younger people would like to do, because there are many younger people that we serve, more certainly in their age group than in mine. And yet, most of our members are more like my age. So we want to not only get younger people in there to relate better to the younger people who are requesting aid, but we want to continue this great ministry in St. Gregory's after our time is up.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. Handing off of a mission is important, because if nobody comes after you, that's
it.
the end of the mission.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we could talk about that for a second with that segue between missions here. So youth and young adult ministry, we're all about that radical hospitality, you know, of being able to reach into somebody's life. It's really tied into relational ministry, where we want to meet people where they're at and lead them to Christ authentically. And the one of the big pieces of that is just getting to know the person that you're right across from. And I think with this opportunity coming, and I was looking at the date, I left my sheet downstairs with my date on it. I don't know if you had that there. For when we get together.
June 2nd.
June 2nd, thank you. June 2nd, we're going to get together with the St. Vincent de Paul team, and we're going to hear their stories. We're going to meet them and just see what that turf looks like. I've been here 10 and a half years, and I have never seen the White House. And I've walked by it, driven by it, but I've never been inside of it.
We're going to have to change that.
But this is going to be a great opportunity for us to just cross the campus and step into your sphere and learn a little bit about what you're doing and see the people that are in action, not only just here at the parish level, but across the diocese and the mission that you're doing to go and serve the poor. This is going to be a great opportunity for you guys to come and join. We're going to be there. Yeah, we'll get some pizza and we'll have some refreshments.
Soft drinks.
Yeah. And it's going to be a good evening.
I think it will be.
Yeah. And you get to see the White House, which is pretty cool. So, wow. So where does the conversation go from here? So we do our meet and greet, and what's the next on the docket to be able to foster the relationship between the two ministries?
Well, I think in the past, we have gotten a lot of participation from younger people, young adults, in the type of things that support our home visits. For instance, when we go on a home visit, usually we'll bring some food with them. Well, younger people, young adults have assisted in food drives. Clothing. Sometimes we'll know that there's a baby in the house and we'll have some baby clothes or some diapers available. We'll bring those out because those came from the clothing drives that the young adults have helped with. Now, we would like to see if anyone is interested and maybe kind of challenge you. Come out, into the field, meet the actual people that are getting these things that we've collected at the parish level through your help and generosity. Look into the eyes of people that need it and see their gratitude for something so little compared to the way we live, the way not everybody lives in this area, but let's face it, we have a lot more here than the homes that we visit. And simple things can make such an impression on people, and they're so thankful. So it's worth it. And like I said, most of the people, if not everyone who has made a home visit, has said that they've gotten more out of it, certainly than the people who have received some of the small things that we can bring to them. I should have also mentioned one of the main requests that we get is for large appliances, refrigerators, stoves, and they're going to be used because the ones we pick up are used. But they can, people, they're in working order, and people don't have them. Picture yourself with a couple of little kids and not having a refrigerator or a stove. that's a tough life, and it's nice when we can help them to get the things that they need just to get by day to day.
Well, hey, I want to put a challenge, because I actually love that challenge. I'm going to build off that challenge here for a second for you, young church, we, the young church. So there's, I think there's an ease and a comfort of being a part of youth and young adult ministry, which I love. I love that there's a homeliness to it, but it's just a small part of a much bigger picture within the church. And the challenge that we have today is that the church as a whole needs you to be the hands and feet of Christ, and needs us. The church is in our hands. You're not the church of tomorrow, you're the church of today, right? And there's no pause in between now and the time that you have to pick up the mantle. Like, oh, I'm going to do that when I'm older, right? That's not the case. The case is for us to take ownership now, because the youth, the young adults today have a lot of talent. They've got a lot of vision. They got a lot of drive, and the church needs that. It needs some lifeblood of that vision. And as you said, there's a lot of ministries that have been running for a long time, and are in need of some new members to take the reins, to be able to step in and continue the mission, to have that handoff. And there's a lot of beautiful missions. In particular, what we're talking about right now is St. Vincent de Paul Society, and the mission with what you are able to achieve, to go and really bring hope into homes. It's easy just to set up a shop somewhere and say, just come and get it. We're just going to collect some things. But that next level of stepping into the sphere and really being vulnerable in a way, to say, I've got a lot of fear to this. I have maybe my own distractions with this. Maybe I have a lot going on in my life that maybe I can't make the time for that, right? But I think it's an opportunity for us to be able to break down that wall a little bit and be brave. And so we have a series, a retreat series called the Brave Retreats. We have Brave 5 coming up this fall, our 5th installment in it. And each year we try to carve out another piece of that fortitude, to be brave in a dark world. And I think this is one of those moments where we could really step in and say, I think I'm hearing a call to action here, to really tangibly be brave and step into a situation that I might be uncomfortable in, and that I might be able to say, Lord, how can you use me in this? How can I be your hands and feet? Because what a mission. And here we are, the third poorest city in America, and there's just an abundance of need, yet we're surrounded with an abundance of haves. And it's easy to forget about what maybe somebody just out of reach might be experiencing. But this might be just a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to saddle up and circle the wagons and just kind of ride into battle bravely, to be able to make a difference, not only just here at the parish, but in the world around us. So, well, Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time to spend it with us, because
My pleasure. By the way, you just nailed it. That's what it's all about. Play that back, rewind it, and listen to Adam.
Let's go.
And you don't have to listen to me.
But this is the conversation, right? And
it is.
And I think, just like with anything, this is why I love doing Coffee Talk. Between this and the St. Greg's podcast, we have over 100 episodes of just conversation on any given topic. But you can't be afraid of having the conversation, right? And anytime you sit down with somebody who maybe you just don't really know, or you're hearing from a different perspective, it really is enlightening. It's probably the wrong word to use, but it really helps with building out your perspective. And the church is so broad that it's a big tent. There's so many different avenues to be able to serve and to be able to build your faith. And to be able to serve the poor is one of the most valuable ways of being able to give back, but also on that growth, that internal growth as well, to be able to see Christ growing inside of you. Because when you serve as him and you're an instrument of his, you start to look like the master.
Reminds me of something I read about St. Vincent de Paul. When he was near death and all of his followers were in a bad state because the leader was leaving, and they said, Vincent, you're near death. The government's against us. We don't have the resources. We don't have the time. It's an unsafe proposition. Vincent, what can we do for the poor? And he said, more. That's our guy.
That's our guy. Wow. So, hey, this has been a great conversation. Thanks for jumping on here and sharing over a cup of coffee.
I appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully anyone who has any type of feeling that maybe you would like to get involved with this, let me say that nobody in this organization does everything. There's a lot of things that we do and nobody does everything, but everybody does something. And together, we can be a big service to the poor.
Well, this is the start of our collaboration with St. Vincent de Paul Society. So our next stop is June 2nd in the evening. I forget what time we were talking about.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Over at the White House at the edge of the property. So we're going to meet the team there. We'll have a little food. And then we'll have some opportunities after that to be able to do some home visits, to go and take a little test run and see if we can really help support a mission that is worthwhile. So, Mike, thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing you on the 2nd.
Okay.
Would you mind closing us in prayer?
Sure. In fact, I brought the St. Vincent de Paul closing prayer for our meetings.
Perfect.
Okay. The response is, Lord, hear us.
Lord, hear us.
Let us pray for our particular intentions, that those whom we visit find your gift of confidence, courage, and peace by our concern for their needs. Lord, hear us.
Lord, hear us.
That our Holy Father, the Pope, be enlightened in his leadership, that all members of the society, their families, any who may now be in need, and all those who help us in our work, be attracted by your love and live fulfilling lives. Lord, hear us. That the society and this conference be blessed with continual growth and renewal in its mission to help overcome suffering.
Lord, hear us.
That we accept with new enthusiasm our calling to make visible our unity in Christ by working together with all Christians in service to the needy. Lord, hear us. That the cause for the canonization of Friedrich Ozanam, who excelled in the virtue of Christian love, be advanced. Lord, hear us. That our departed friends and relatives, our Vincentian brothers and sisters, and those whom we have served be welcomed into your kingdom and joined in love. Lord, hear us. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in with Coffee Talk, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. I think our next one is going to be with either Greg James, if he beats it. It might be the girls too. So the next two that might pop up, depending on who gets to it first, is Greg James. We're going to have another crack at him, and we'll be on also with Nicole and Caitlin very soon. So thanks for tuning in. If this was a conversation worth your time, feel free to like and subscribe it. And on top of that, feel free to pass this on to somebody you know who might actually enjoy it. So, and even if they won't enjoy it, share it anyways. Put it on. Pass it around.
All right.
So thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Adam.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll see you guys next time. Happy Easter, by the way. Happy Easter. God bless.